The Georgia Heavyweight Championship was one of the primary titles in the Georgia territory of the National Wrestling Alliance. John Malden was recognized as Georgia Heavyweight Champion in the 1930s and 40s, but this video will concentrate on the title recognized in Georgia Championship Wrestling in the 1960s and 1970s. The title was revived in the late 90s and is still active today, but we'll get more into that at the end of the video. Like other videos of this kind on this channel, this is not a deep dive into each and every title reign. I call it a glorified list of champions, but we will slow down and take a look at some interesting points along the way. There is an almost 20-year history to go through, so let's get into it. The title was originally known simply as the Georgia Heavyweight Championship. The first recognized Georgia Heavyweight Champion actually started as something declared by fans. Choo Choo Lynn was declared the unofficial Georgia Heavyweight Champion by fans in Macon in October 1962. This happened after Lynn came close to defeating World Wrestling Association World Champion Freddie Blassie on 2 occasions. There are surprisingly few pictures or videos of Choo Choo out there as far as I could find. Lynn was originally from Macon, and fans wanted to honor the locally born near world champion. In November 1962, the Macon City Council actually presented Lynn with a championship belt. At first, this was not recognized by promoters or the NWA, but on February 5, 1963, Lynn was finally officially recognized by local promoters as the Georgia Heavyweight Champion. So technically, the lineage doesn't begin until February 1963, but I am going to recognize what the fans did and begin the lineage in October 1962. Lynn held the title about 9 months from being declared champion by the fans, losing it to Honey Boy Hannigan in Macon on July 23, 1963. I couldn't find much of anything on Honey Boy Hannigan. I can't even find a picture. This is just what Grok gave me when I asked for a picture. Hannigan only held the title 7 days before losing it back to Choo Choo Lynn in Macon on July 30th, so honestly I didn't put too much time into digging. That also already made Lynn the first wrestler to hold the title more than once. Lynn held the title until December 19, 1963, when he vacated the Georgia Championship after winning the Southeastern Championship. The Georgia title remained vacant until March 24, 1964, when Dick the Bruiser was recognized as champion. There's no indication of where or how he won the title, so it was likely either a phantom tournament or he simply showed up somewhere one day with the belt and they let fans fill in their own blanks. And Dick the Bruiser only sporadically defended the title over the next 4.5 months, losing the belt just as the National Wrestling Alliance finally decided to recognize the championship. On August 9, 1964, the title became the NWA Georgia Heavyweight Championship, a name it would hold for the next 17 years. Sputnik Monroe was the man that defeated Bruiser for the title in the first title change in Atlanta. All title changes over the next 3 years would take place in Atlanta. Monroe held the belt 47 days, dropping the title to Don Fargo on September 25, 1964. Fargo only held the title 3 weeks, losing it back to Sputnik Monroe on October 16th. Monroe had another 28 days with the championship, losing it to Mario Galento on November 13, 1964. Galento had a long run of 196 days in his one and only Georgia title reign, taking the belt in 1965 and having some brutal defenses against Buddy Fuller before losing it to Fuller on May 28th. Buddy Fuller's real name was Edward Welch, and he was the son of promoter Roy Welch, who worked out of Nashville, Tennessee, and was a longtime partner of Nick Gulas. Like any son of someone in pro wrestling, young Edward had an automatic entry into the profession, but Edward wanted to make his own mark and avoid simply being known as the son of Roy Welch. He changed his name to Buddy Fuller and spent most of his career working somewhere other than the territory his father ran. Fuller established himself as a top star in Georgia in the 1960s and became a part owner of the booking office. Buddy's sons Ron and Robert both broke into the business while he was in Georgia, but after Ray Gunkel's death, Fuller chose to move on to Florida and eventually found his way back to Tennessee. As a silent partner with Jerry Jarrett, he helped ease some tensions between the outlaw Memphis promotion and the NWA. While the name Buddy Fuller has faded a bit into pro wrestling history today, he left an undeniable mark on the profession. In his first run as Georgia Heavyweight Champion, his mark includes the longest single title reign in the history of the championship. Fuller held the belt that first time 1 day short of a full year, 364 days, finally dropping the belt to Louis Tillett on May 27, 1966. Toledo only held the title 3 weeks, losing it back to Buddy Fuller on June 17th. Fuller then went on another 252-day run with the belt, so out of a 628-day span, Fuller was the champion for a total of 616 days. Fuller loosened his grip on the belt a little after that second reign, taking the belt into 1967 and dropping it to El Mongol on February 24th. Mongol only held the title 22 days, losing it to Nick Kozak on March 18, 1967. 20 days later, Kozak lost the belt back to El Mongol on April 7th. Mongol only had the title another 21 days before losing it back to Buddy Fuller on April 28th. The third title reign for Fuller would prove to be his last, as well as his shortest. Fuller lost the title back to El Mongol after 49 days on June 16, 1967. El Mongol entered into a long feud with Mr. Wrestling over the Georgia title, leading to them trading the belt back and forth. Mr. Wrestling ended Mongol's reign at just 24 days, taking the belt on July 11, 1967 in Macon, the first title change in Macon and outside Atlanta in 3 years. El Mongol got the title back just a week later on July 18th, also in Macon, giving Mongol his fourth run with the Georgia Heavyweight Championship. That was more title reigns than any other wrestler at the time, and a record Mongol would add to over the next few years. Mr. Wrestling took the title again after 24 days, starting another stretch of title changes in Atlanta on August 11, 1967. Wrestling held the belt just short of a full month, dropping the title back to El Mongol on September 8, 1967. This time, El Mongol tightened his grip on the Georgia title, taking the belt into 1968 with a 238-day run before losing it back to Mr. Wrestling on May 3, 1968. That would essentially wrap up the feud between El Mongol and Mr. Wrestling. Mr. Wrestling only held the title a week, dropping the belt to a masked wrestler calling himself the Big O on May 10, 1968. 2 weeks later, the Big O would unmask and reveal himself to be Johnny Valentine. Valentine held the belt a total of 35 days, losing it to veteran Tarzan Tyler on June 14, 1968. Tyler turned in a fairly long run of 70 days before he dropped the belt to the Professional on August 23, 1968. The Professional had a fairly long run himself, holding the title 77 days before losing it to Johnny Valentine on November 8, 1968. Valentine and the Professional feuded over the belt over the next few weeks. After a controversial ending to a match between the two on November 29th, which featured special referee Joe Louis, the title was declared vacant, ending Valentine's run at 21 days. In a rematch on December 6, 1968, the Professional took the championship to start his second reign with the belt. 3 weeks later, the Professional dropped the title to Dale Lewis on December 27, 1968. Lewis took the belt into 1969, holding it 42 days before losing it to El Mongol, who checked in for his sixth title reign on February 7, 1969. The Assassin number 1, who at the time was Tom Renesto, defeated El Mongol for the title on March 21, 1969, to end Mongol's run at 42 days. Assassin 1 held the title for 28 days before losing it back to El Mongol on April 18, 1969. Mongol only had the belt 15 days when he surrendered the title. I couldn't find why he had to surrender the title, but officially it was vacated on May 3, 1969, and a 3-man, 1-night tournament was set for May 16, 1969, in Atlanta. The Professional drew the lucky straw and only had to wrestle once. El Mongol defeated Paul DeMarco earlier in the night, but then the Professional defeated El Mongol to take the championship. Now a 3-time champion, the Professional held the Georgia title 36 days before dropping the belt to Paul DeMarco on June 21, 1969. DeMarco had a lengthy run of 90 days with the Georgia title, losing it on September 19, 1969 to Joe Scarpa. Of course, you may know Scarpa better as Chief Jay Strongbow. Scarpa only held the title 2 weeks, losing it back to Paul DeMarco on October 3rd. DeMarco had another healthy run of 56 days with the belt, dropping it on November 28, 1969 to a maskless Professional, now known as Doug Gilbert. This Doug Gilbert was not related to the better-known Gilbert wrestling family that includes Tommy, Eddie, and the other Doug Gilbert. The real name of the former masked Professional was actually Douglas Allen Lindsay, who started his career in Chicago in the late 1950s. It was during a run in Omaha All-Star Wrestling that he took the name Doug Gilbert, as he was paired with Johnny Gilbert as a brother tag team. Developing a high-flying style inspired by Edouard Carpentier, Doug had a long run in the early days of Vern Gagne's AWA, where he had a short stint as one half of the AWA World Tag Team Champions with Dick Steinborn. After impressing crowds with his aerial style in Mid-Atlantic, Tri-State, and Central States, he donned a mask for his debut as a professional in Georgia in 1968. The professional immediately butted heads with Mr. Wrestling and took his first Georgia Heavyweight Championship less than a month after coming into the territory. Doug continued to be one of the top stars in Georgia, later donning another mask and appearing as Super Inferno #1. After leaving Georgia, Doug appeared in Florida, Houston, Southeastern Championship Wrestling, and the AWA, among other places, but never quite captured the success of his initial Georgia run. Gilbert had his final match in 1986, jobbing to Bob Orton at a WWF house show in Omaha. Gilbert would be forced to vacate the Georgia title to end his fourth run with that belt on February 28, 1970, ending his reign at 92 days. Fans were told Gilbert was injured, and that's why he had to surrender the belt. I came across something that claimed the injury was legit and suffered during a motorcycle accident. I did find a newspaper article where his son was being quoted, and he was saying something about his father taking him to Pee-wee football practice on a motorcycle. Unfortunately, the rest of the article was behind a paywall, and I'm not paying $75 to find out what he was talking about. I don't think it's accurate anyway, as Gilbert was in Amarillo on March 3rd of that year, again under a mask, wrestling as the Destroyer. But in case there was something to it, I wanted to mention it. In the final of an 8-man tournament held on March 13, 1970 in Atlanta, Assassin #1 defeated Joe Scarpa to take the championship. Scarpa actually had Assassin 1 in a sleeper, but Assassin 1 was able to push back and land on top of Scarpa, pinning him for a 3 count. Assassin 1 held the belt 35 days, losing the title to Nick Bockwinkel on April 17, 1970. The future AWA World Champion Bockwinkel had a great run of 91 days with the belt, dropping it to Paul DeMarco on July 17, 1970. DeMarco's third title reign would be a short one, losing the belt back to Nick Bockwinkel a week later on July 24th. Bockwinkel added another 42 days to his total time as Georgia champion before he lost the title to Buddy Colt on September 4th, 1970. Colt had a long run of 84 days as champion, losing the title to Ray Gunkel on November 27, 1970. This marked Gunkel's first time winning the Georgia title, however, it wouldn't last. The day after Gunkel's victory, Buddy Colt's manager Homer Odell announced on television he was filing an appeal with the NWA to negate the title victory. I couldn't find what happened in the match to justify an appeal, but the NWA approved it, and on January 29, 1971, it was announced the title would be vacated, but Gunkel was still officially recognized as winning and holding the title up to that point. On February 5, 1971, a 14-man tournament was held in Atlanta to crown a new champion. El Mongol defeated Nick Bockwinkel in the tournament final to take his 8th Georgia Heavyweight Championship. Mongol losing the title leaves a lot of questions. Most sources say he lost the title to Buddy Colt on June 18, 1971. However, on June 18, 1971, Colt came to the ring already being recognized as champion at Atlanta Municipal Auditorium when he defended the belt against Doug Gilbert. There is a sizable gap in the match records for El Mongol around that time. He tagged with Ray Gunkel against the Assassins on June 11th, and as far as I could find, didn't make another appearance until defeating Crusher Carlson on July 2nd. It was more than a month after that before he had another match, and had a fairly light schedule through August. So I don't know if he had some kind of personal issues he was dealing with, or maybe a legit injury they didn't want to make public for some reason, but apparently it was enough to take the belt off of him. As far as I know, there was never anything announced as far as when the title change took place. Phantom match so phantom there isn't even a kayfabe story for it. So we'll just list Buddy Colt as taking the belt sometime in June 1971. Whenever he got the belt, there are conflicting records as to when Colt lost the belt. A lot of sources say Colt lost the title to Ray Gunkel on July 20th, 1971 in Atlanta, but the only card I could find for July 20th was in Macon, and it involved neither Buddy Colt or Ray Gunkel. Well, just long story short, I don't think that title change is accurate. I can't find any solid records indicating Gunkel took the title from Colt, though the two were feuding during this time. But I did want to bring it up. Maybe there was a Phantom match and Gunkel held the title briefly before losing it back. But as far as I know, he never had it. From what I can tell, Colt held the Georgia Championship in the 1972, dropping the belt to El Mongol on January 25th. This marked El Mongol's record 9th Georgia Heavyweight Championship and would also be his last. After Ray Gunkel's death in August, Ray's wife Ann Gunkel started the All-South Wrestling Alliance, and Mongol jumped ship to that promotion. Mongol would not return to Georgia Championship Wrestling until a handful of appearances in 1982 before his retirement. Mongol held the belt 74 days in his final reign, dropping the title back to Buddy Colt on April 8, 1972, in Griffin, Georgia. That was the first actual title change outside Atlanta since Mongol won the belt from Mr. Wrestling in Macon in July 1967, so a 5-year span. Colt held the title 27 days before things turned back to Atlanta for another long run of title changes when he lost the belt to Roberto Soto on May 5, 1972. Soto was approaching 7 months as Georgia Heavyweight Champion when, like El Mongol, he jumped ship and went to the All-South Wrestling Alliance. Soto took the belt with him and was immediately recognized as Georgia Heavyweight Champion in the ASWA. Now, there is no specific date the title was officially vacated in the NWA territory, but Soto's departure was very abrupt. On November 27, 1972, he won a 10-man battle royal on a Georgia Championship Wrestling card in Waycross, Georgia. 2 days later, he made his debut in ASWA on the winning team in an 8-man tag team match in Savannah. So, unofficially, will end the title reign on November 28, 1972, at 207 days. Official or not, Soto had the last Georgia title run of over 200 days. The Georgia Championship Wrestling held a 16-man tournament to crown a new Georgia champion, with the final between Sputnik Monroe and Mr. Wrestling 2 on March 2, 1973 in Atlanta. Mr. Wrestling 2 won the tournament and the belt, marking his first Georgia Heavyweight Championship. At the time, Mr. Wrestling 2 was part of a wave of new talent in the territory. Previously wrestling under his real name of Johnny Walker in Mid-America, Wrestling 2 made his debut in Georgia in January 1973, partnered with Tim Wood's Mr. Wrestling 1. And 2 quickly became one of the most popular stars in the territory. Wrestling 2 held the Georgia title 70 days, losing it to Bill Watts on May 11, 1973, and sparking a feud between the two. Watts held the belt 63 days, losing it back to Mr. Wrestling 2 on July 13, 1973. 2's second run with the title was a short one as he and Watts continued to trade the belt back and forth. 2 lost the title back to Bill Watts just 8 days later on July 21st. The feud continued, and on August 17, 1973, Watts purposely got himself disqualified in the defense against Wrestling 2, so he would lose the match but keep the belt. The NWA immediately stepped in and stripped Watts of the title, ending his reign at 27 days. In a rematch between the two on August 31st, Mr. Wrestling 2 regained the Georgia title to begin his third run with the belt. Wrestling 2 had a 63-day reign, again dropping the belt back to Bill Watts on November 2, 1973, also giving Watts his third Georgia title run. Watts had the title 49 days, this time dropping the belt to Buddy Fuller's eldest son, Ron Fuller, on December 21, 1973. This made Buddy and Ron the first father and son combination to hold the Georgia Heavyweight Championship. Fuller took the title in 1974, but only had the belt 21 days before losing it to Mr. Wrestling 2 on January 11th. Wrestling 2 set out on a 175-day title reign, finally dropping the title on July 5, 1974, to Buddy Colt, who checked in with his 5th Georgia title reign. Holding the title for the first time in 2 years, Colt kept the belt 49 days before losing it back to Mr. Wrestling 2 on August 23rd, also making 2 a 5-time champion. This also began a series of short runs with the title. Wrestling 2 only held the belt for 21 days before he lost it to former NWA World Champion Harley Race on September 13, 1974. Race only had the title 8 days, dropping it to Don Morocco on September 21, 1974. Morocco's run with the belt ended at 21 days when the defense against Buddy Colt on October 4th ended in a no contest. I don't know what happened in that match, but the NWA stepped in and vacated the title. Rather than holding the tournament, a battle royal was held on October 11, 1974 to fill the vacancy. Buddy Colt won the battle royal to take his sixth Georgia title. The title would be held up again after Colt's defense against Rocky Johnson on November 15, 1974, ending Colt's run at 35 days. Rocky Johnson won the rematch on December 6th to fill the vacancy and win his first and only Georgia title. With the Georgia Southeastern Championship having been deactivated by the end of 1974 and the folding of All South Wrestling Alliance around the same time, more wrestlers than ever were getting in line for a shot at the Georgia title, which had become the primary title in the Georgia Territory. Johnson had a nice run of 77 days and took the belt into 1975 before he dropped the title to Abdullah the Butcher on February 21st. Abdullah was recently voted into YouTube's Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame here on the channel, by the way. One of the bigger titles Abdullah held in his career, he took the belt into the summer with a 133-day run, dropping it to Mr. Wrestling 2 on July 4th, 1975. I take it that was just for a happy ending to the Independence Day card, as Wrestling 2 lost the Georgia title back to Abdullah the Butcher just 7 days later on July 11th. The Butcher held the belt another 27 days before dropping it to Toru Tanaka on August 7th, 1975. Tanaka losing the title does bring about some peculiarities. Tanaka was scheduled to defend the title against Mike McCord on September 5th in Atlanta, but McCord didn't make it to the card. Bob Backlund replaced McCord in that match, and Tanaka left with the belt. Evidently, McCord was meant to defeat Tanaka that night to take the title. I don't know why he wasn't there, but on September 15th, McCord was in a tag team match in Augusta and was announced as the new Georgia Heavyweight Champion. McCord then defended the title for the first time the next night in Macon against Nikolai Volkov. McCord and Tanaka hadn't faced each other in that 10-day span, and no date or place was ever given for the title change. So it's another case of a Phantom match being so Phantom there aren't even kayfabe details. We'll just split it down the middle and say McCord takes the Georgia Championship on September 10th, 1975, ending Tanaka's reign at 34 days. Things don't get any more clear with McCord's reign. McCord lost the match on September 16th by disqualification, but on September 23rd in Macon, Nikolai Volkov showed up as champion to defend against Bobby Duncombe. It would later be announced Volkov won the title on September 16th. So, officially, Nikolai Volkov becomes the Georgia Heavyweight Champion on September 16th, with the DQ rule apparently waived, even though it was after the fact. It may also not be totally unrelated that McCord was gone from the territory shortly thereafter, at least for a while. He would later return using the name Austin Idol. Volkov wouldn't hold the title long, dropping it on October 3rd, 1975 in Atlanta to Mr. Wrestling 2. In his seventh Georgia Heavyweight Championship reign, Wrestling 2 held the title 55 days, losing it to the Spoiler on November 27, 1975. The Spoiler took the title in 1976 with a 64-day run before dropping the belt to Dusty Rhodes on January 30th. Rhodes only had a token run of 7 days, dropping the belt back to the Spoiler on February 6, 1976. With his official second time as Georgia champion, Spoiler held the belt through most of the summer, 196 days, before dropping the title to Dick Slater on August 20th, 1976. Slater had a nice run of 67 days with the belt, dropping it to Mr. Wrestling 2 in Columbus, Georgia on October 26, 1976. Other than the strange title changes involving Mike McCord, this was the first official title change outside Atlanta in 4 years, when Buddy Colt won the title in Griffin. Wrestling 2 had a month-long run with the belt before losing it back to Dick Slater on November 25th, 1976, also in Columbus. Slater had a 141-day run with the title in his second reign, finally losing it to Paul Jones on April 15th, 1977 in Atlanta. Jones held the belt 50 days, losing it back to Dick Slater on June 4th, 1977, also in Atlanta. Slater held the belt into the winter of 1977 with a 165-day title reign, finally dropping the belt on November 16, 1977, to Stan Hansen in Columbus. Hansen took the belt in 1978, losing it to Mr. Wrestling 2 on January 25, 1978 in Columbus. This was Wrestling 2's ninth time winning the Georgia Heavyweight Championship, which tied El Mongol for the most title reigns. 2 and Hansen feuded over the title through the early part of 1978, with Stan Hansen regaining the title on February 6th to end 2's ninth title run at just 12 days. Hansen held off a determined wrestling, but his run came to an end at 103 days when he stripped of the title after a defense against 2 on May 20th, 1978. Hansen attacked the referee, possibly hoping to get disqualified and lose the match but keep the belt. He ended up losing both and was fined a bunch of money. A 14-man tournament was set for June 9, 1978 in Atlanta, with a battle royal opening the night and determining the pairings for the first round. Angelo Mosca won the tournament, but I couldn't find anywhere who he beat in the final to take the title. Dick Slater, Abdullah the Butcher, Mr. Wrestling 2, Ivan Koloff, The Assassin, Stan Hansen, Mad Dog Martin, Mr. Wrestling 1, Rick Martel, Ole Anderson, Tommy Rich, Adrian Adonis, Hartford Love, and Lynn Denton were the other participants, so it was one of them. When Mosca lost the title does cause some confusion, and wouldn't you know, Thunderbolt Patterson is involved. Every source says something a little different. One says Mosca was stripped of the title on September 23rd, but that was a TV taping where they ran a video segment on Mosca and said nothing about the title being stripped. Another source says Mosca actually lost the Georgia title to Thunderbolt Patterson on September 25th. Match Records actually confirmed this, but then they apparently changed their mind and just pretended it didn't happen. That match was retroactively recognized as a non-title match. Mosca continued to defend the title until October 14, 1978, when it was announced on television that Mosca had been stripped of the title. I couldn't find why he was stripped of the title, but his reign officially ended at 125 days. Just 2 days later in Augusta, Georgia, a 6-man tournament was held to crown a new champion. Mr. Wrestling 2 defeated Stan Hansen in the final. This marked Mr. Wrestling 2's 10th Georgia Heavyweight Championship, which surpassed El Mongol for the most reigns as the Georgia champion. 2 held the title 49 days before dropping the belt to the Masked Superstar on December 4th, 1978 in Augusta. Superstar and Wrestling 2 had a long feud that never really came to an end. It was kind of like Ole Anderson and Dusty Rhodes. It was never over. Masked Superstar, who many modern-day fans may know better as Demolition Axe, had a long reign of 161 days, finally losing the title to Wahoo McDaniel on May 14, 1979 in Augusta. McDaniel had a nice run as well, holding the belt 77 days before dropping the title back to the Masked Superstar on July 30th, 1979 in Augusta. That made 4 straight Georgia title changes in Augusta, which had never even come close to happening before. Superstar and McDaniel continued to feud over the belt, with Wahoo McDaniel taking the title back after just 18 days on August 17, 1979 in Atlanta. McDaniel was recognized as holding the belt for 1 day when the NWA stepped in and declared the title vacant. Apparently there was a double pin in the match against Superstar, with both men's shoulders on the mat when the count was made. Rather than having a rematch between McDaniel and Superstar, a 14-man tournament was held to decide a new champion. Killer Carl Cox defeated Bob Armstrong in the tournament final on August 24, 1979, to take his first Georgia championship. Cox had a 63-day run with the belt, losing it to Tommy Rich on October 26, 1979 in Atlanta. And this also marked Tommy's first run with the Georgia title. Rich held the belt 42 days before losing it to the Masked Superstar, who checked in for his third title reign on December 7, 1979 in Atlanta. Superstar took the belt in 1980, dropping it to Mr. Wrestling 2 on January 12th in Atlanta to end Superstar's run at 36 days. This also marked Mr. Wrestling 2's 11th Georgia Heavyweight Championship win, which would break his own record for the most title reigns, and was also the last run with the Georgia belt for Wrestling 2. 2 held the title 77 days in that last run, losing it to Austin Idol, who actually showed up under his new name to take the belt on March 29, 1980 in Atlanta. Idol would turn babyface near the end of his 71-day reign, as we saw the beginning of a partnership between he and former nemesis Kevin Sullivan as they feuded with the Fabulous Freebirds. Before that feud got underway, Idol dropped the Georgia title to Baron von Raschke on June 8, 1980, in Atlanta. The veteran Raschke held the title 64 days, losing it to Steve Kern on August 11, 1980, in Augusta. Kern had a fairly short run with the belt, dropping it after 28 days to Dennis Condrey on September 8, 1980, also in Augusta. Condrey was holding the belt when the Georgia Territory introduced a new title, the National Heavyweight Championship, with former NWA World Champion Jack Briscoe being the first to hold that new title. Condrey kept the Georgia belt 46 days, losing it to Tony Atlas on October 24, 1980, in Atlanta. Atlas had been splitting time between Georgia and the World Wrestling Federation through most of 1980, and continued to do so despite a long run with the Georgia title. Finally, after 188 days, the title was declared vacant on April 30, 1981, when Atlas went to the WWF full-time. A tournament was held to fill the vacancy, with Tommy Rich defeating Greg Ballantyne in the final to take his second Georgia Heavyweight Championship on May 17, 1981, in Atlanta. The last few title changes would all take place in Atlanta. Rich had a 35-day run with the title before losing it to Ken Patera on June 21, 1981. Patera held the title 49 days, with his run coming to an abrupt end because of a real-life dispute with Booker Ole Anderson. Patera left the Georgia Territory and eventually landed in the American Wrestling Association. Patera's reign officially ended on August 9, 1981. On August 9th, Patera was scheduled to defend against Tommy Rich, but with his departure, Rich was declared the winner by forfeit and given the championship. Rich immediately entered into a feud with the National Heavyweight Champion, Masked Superstar, over both belts. Tommy Rich would be the last person to lose the Georgia Heavyweight Championship. On September 12, 1981, Rich's reign ended at 34 days when he lost the title unification match against national champion, the Masked Superstar, at the Omni in Atlanta. The Superstar would officially be recognized as holding the Georgia Championship for 1 day before the title was absorbed by the National Heavyweight Championship, and the Georgia Heavyweight Championship ceased to exist. That is the history of the Georgia title as it pertains to Georgia Championship Wrestling of the NWA, but as I said at the beginning of the video, the title was revived in the late 1990s. 17 years went by between the unification match with Masked Superstar and Tommy Rich and the revival of the title. It's a totally different company and different people. I think a line has to be drawn somewhere, and in a situation like this, it's a new title and the lineage isn't the same. Still, I didn't want to completely ignore it, so here are a few of the title holders after the Georgia Heavyweight Championship was revived in 1998. Still a part of the NWA, the reemergence of the title began when Billy Black was officially awarded the title on June 1, 1998. Lord Humongous, who was Sid Vicious wearing a Jason-inspired hockey mask, held the title for a couple of months in 1999. Bart Sawyer, who you may have seen in Portland or the USWA in the early 90s, held the title between June 1999 and October 1999. The title was officially vacated in October 1999 when NWA Wildside took over things in Georgia, and the title's name was changed to the NWA Wildside Championship. Rick Michaels was the first champion under that name, winning the title in a Mega Rumble on October 14, 1999. AJ Styles held the belt for about 3 months in late 2001 and early 2002. Terry Gordy's son Ray Gordy apparently held the title in 2004 going into 2005. I'm not exactly sure what that situation was. Both he and Onyx are listed as winning the title on December 4th, 2004. Getting details on these smaller promotions in the early 2000s is kind of tough. The title was retired after NWA Wildside folded in April 2005, but revived again by the NWA in June 2012 when Crew Jones defeated Steven Styles to win the belt. That lasted 5 years and saw Damian Wayne as the last champion when the NWA ended their license with the Georgia Territory. Now an independent promotion, Georgia Championship Wrestling rose from the ashes again in 2021 and brought with it the Georgia Heavyweight Championship, with Terry Lawler being the first champion in that incarnation. As far as I can tell, the current champion is Nick Kalen, who took the title on June 28th, 2025. So that is it. That is the history of the Georgia Heavyweight Championship as it pertains to the NWA's Georgia Championship Wrestling, plus a little extra. If you enjoyed this title lineage video and would like to see others, you can check out the playlist or take a look at some of the other videos on the channel. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe, not necessarily in that order. And I will see you next time.